responsible position as far as I'm concerned. The third thing is to be sure, as has been mentioned before, which is the most important thing for business as well, is the capability building. There's an enormous skill gap here between what is needed to get to these enormous ambitions and what is actually possible right now. So if we can invest in the education, in women, so that it's a totally inclusive society, business has to play a key role there as well. You cannot just delegate that to governments or educational institutions. Even in the Western world, if you may say that, most of the education happens after you leave school, and companies take a big responsibility. So companies need to start seeing Africa differently as well, as an investment for the longer term. Where is the shortage, if you want to be critical, which I don't want to do, but where is the opportunity? I think the opportunity is for African leaders to step up and be responsible for Africa. And we would be 100% supportive of that. But Africa needs to be run by Africa and not by the rest of the world.
Burima Konare, Paul Polman reminds us that this is essentially a young continent. And what we don't want is youth despair because of unemployment, youth despair because governments can't respond to the aspirations of young people. Is that a priority for you?
First of all, thank you for this opportunity. As a global shaper, I'm delighted to be on this high panel. For me, the most important goal has to do with the fight against poverty and starvation. In the streets of many African cities, we see young people and women begging for food. Despite all the technologies we have, despite all the resources we have at the global level, we are still not able to feed our people. We are not able to give them shelters, clothes. And as I was saying, most of these people begging for food are women. Maybe we have to find a way to empower African women, maybe through microfinancing. Yesterday we had a session with President Lula. He was saying that if women have a revenue, they will invest it in their families, they will get clothes for their children, they will pay for their health and education. So for me, it's really the most crucial issue that needs to be addressed today.
But Burima, I just want to stay with you because you're young.
Yes.
We talk about young people. Our leaders are talking about us.
Yes.
Do they get us? I'm young. Somebody's disputing that I'm talking about us.
Yes, but there are also young women in Africa. As a young person, what is really a challenge in Africa? It has to do with the prices. Everything seems to be so expensive in Africa. For example, it's more expensive to fly from Bamako to Abuja than flying from Bamako to Paris. It makes everything more complicated, even connectivity. So we need to create more opportunities, more trading opportunities. Africans have to trade between themselves.
Carlos Lopez, successes, failures, and the future, because you will be instrumental in driving forward this Agenda 2063 in the work you do.
Well, first of all, let me agree with Paul. I think really the numbers have to be put into perspective. And I think it's very important what he said in terms of the number of countries that have the best record in progressing in the MDGs. And I think, you were quoting our research, so I'm very grateful. 15 out of the 20 best performers are African. Now, of course, the reason is because in Africa, we have the best marathonists, the best runners. But even the best runner cannot make it if the point of departure is different from everyone that is going in the race. So what we have done with the MDGs is that we have established the finishing line, 2015, and all the targets for the finishing line. But each country started from a different distance. If you have 40% of your population that is under poverty and you have to reduce by half, that means 20% of the population. But if you have 8% of your population, that means 4%. So how can you measure the same performance from Uruguay and Mali? It's not the same departing line, but they have the same finishing line. That is problem number one. Problem number two, you mentioned, Lerato, 8 goals. We always forget goal number 8. Goal number 8 is about the responsibilities of the international community, mostly the donor countries, because this was a contract. And they were supposed to contribute with enablers. Enablers meaning financing, regulatory environments, trade, all these different elements that are going to create the level playing field. Has this part been done? We don't know because it was not measured. That is the only one that is not measured. So the one that we don't have any responsibility for. It's important for us to contextualize this because as we move into the post-2015, we cannot allow these things to happen anymore. Now, what is the 2063 going to be about? It's the long-term vision. But that long-term vision has to be anchored on something very concrete that is measurable, that has metrics, that we can actually see the progress moving forward, not in 50 years, but year after year. For that, the debate has now become about establishing African development goals. These are different from the sustainable development goals that are going to be negotiated with the entire planet. Africans have to have their own too, that have to have a level of ambition that complements whatever is going to be agreed internationally. And this is going to be the building block for making that vision possible. How is this going to be built? Well, on the basis of the different frameworks that our heads of state have been putting together. President Macky Sall is the leader of the NEPAD effort. A country like Côte d'Ivoire is one of the leaders in trying to move our West Africa region. Until recently, President Ouattara was the president of ECOWAS. Each one of these various bodies have approved a number of frameworks, Africa Mining Vision, the Comprehensive Agricultural Plan, the IDA for industry, every possible area as a framework. There are 16 of them. But have they been measured? Yeah. Not. Now we will start measuring them, which will make progress and implementation possible. So we'll have less resolutions and more action.
So what I'm going to do now is throw forward to 2063 because we've evaluated what's been going on over the last 15 years. And I'm going to go to the broad themes that have been identified by the African Union. I want to start with the theme, Minister Okonjo-Iweala, of security, which will be a pillar to accelerating this growth. It's unfortunate and it's tragic that when Nigeria should be shining right now, the international media, and myself, I'm guilty as charged, we are focusing on what is justifiably a tragedy and something we should be talking about. The abduction of 200 schoolgirls in northern Nigeria, the rise of militancy and terrorism. This country was just named the #1 economy in Africa, and that progress is shunted by militancy, and not just militancy, a militancy that does everything to sabotage the development of young women. Why do you think that is?
Well, that's a very tough question. You know, we cannot plumb the minds of, and I'm going to use very strong words, of evil people, because I believe that these people represent, cannot hide behind religion. We've now had pronouncements from all those who are, you know, Muslim, and saying that this does not represent them. And I think that Africa has come a long way in establishing means. If there's disaffection within a country, any country, there are means, democratic means to express that. And it doesn't have to resort to violence. But I believe that these are evil times. that we're facing. People who would abduct young